Welcome to Thwet Talks Movies. And this time, Alita Battle Angel. From my voice, you probably already picked up that this time I'm going to prove that yes, I can in fact be negative as well. The best way to describe how Alita Battle Angel, why it's not a good movie, is to simply tell you that it's a movie that feels like an adaptation. To some people, that's all I need to tell. To others, well, you'll want to stick around for a bit. It's a movie that feels like it tries to adapt story elements of something without really figuring out if it makes a good movie. It more looks at what story arcs exist, what plot elements exist, and let's copy that. Not if that makes for a good movie. Now, the big problem people will see when they see the trailer is Alita's very big eyes. That, at least for me, was not a flaw with the movie. It's never explained, which is kind of annoying for someone like me who wants everything explained. But it's not a problem in the movie. Just in the movie, you get used to that type of stuff very quickly. Here is something that should maybe worry you, depending on the person you are. You don't want to watch this movie if you really can't deal with things like dismemberment. Now, it happens mainly to just the androids. No, not androids, to the cyborgs. It only happens to the cyborgs, so unless it's to the head like that, it's not fatal. It can be replaced. But there is still a lot of it. So if you don't like that, don't watch this movie, because it's full of it. Another problem I have with it is, well, you tell me if you have heard this type of story before. A long time ago, there was a war with another place, and you never see anything of that place. Maybe you see some relics of it. And that completely destroyed the world. Except one or a couple places where old technology still exists. But while that should provide people with amazing technology, a great place to live, it turns into a dystopia where the people in power stay in power and keep the rest of the people low. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of things, doesn't it? One I immediately think of is Fallout. Oh, and of course, let's also add, the main character is a relic from that long ago time. Because of course, and because of that, some people will be searching for them. Or they have an old relic or something, I don't care. It's so overdone, there are so many places where this exists. Oh, and of course, in the same time, humans have completely gone to shit. Just humans have become all kind of evil and stuff like that. Because, you know, the best way to be creative is to do the same bloody thing over and over again. Yeah, as you can probably hear, I don't find the setting interesting. It's a setting we have seen before. Mad Max Fury Road was also kind of had that same story beat. But at least that was a good movie. Just, it's the same setting, and it's a setting you can use for good stuff, but here it really isn't. So yeah, the entire setting is overdone. So let's first quickly talk about why I went to this movie. What I thought might have been extremely interesting in it. I always like things like cyborgs. I always like the idea of human and machine integration. That's always just absolutely fascinating to me. Just basically how humans work together with extremely advanced technology. That's interesting stuff to me. that can be robots and humans, that can be humans and machine integrated. All of that stuff is just extremely interesting to me. So Disney has none of that, so if you want that out of your movie, don't watch this movie. It doesn't have it. So let's talk about some more specific problems I have with the movie. I often feel like the only sane person. As in, everybody in the movie is insane. Just there is a sport that has people often murdering each other. And the first time the main character, the first time Alita sees this, she's completely in awe and loves it. Woman, you insane? Seriously? Am I the only one who doesn't like seeing murder for no reason? Seriously, how do we live in a society where murder is less frowned upon than naked body parts? Bloody hell. Also, there are plot points which are made to be extremely important and then disappear, don't get resolved really. Because, yeah, every good movie has that, right? It's a depressing movie. And it's not a movie that's meant to be depressing, I think, it's just that's what it did, because many of the storylines are that, and just humans are shit, and that never gets resolved. Just a group of shit humans gets murdered, but that's it. There's no change for the better in the city, just the city isn't improved by anything that happens in the movie, and the lives of the character aren't improved by the events in the movie. And of course there is basically the Institute. I mean, it's not the Institute from Fallout 4, but it basically is the Institute. And you never get to see it, because that's how good movies work, right? Oh wait, no, obviously it's not. A big bad evil guy, that never gets resolved. I mean, there is kind of some resolution, but not really. Just the entire movie is full of flaws. Here are 2 additional flaws that I even forgot to talk about. A lot of the plot elements could be supplemented by proper communication. Now, I understand that proper communication is a difficult thing. It's something a lot of people struggle with. I don't want to see terrible communication in my movies. I mean, in some movies, it makes sense. For instance, in a romantic movie, you very often wouldn't have a movie if you can't communicate. Just a lot of those movies, if you can properly communicate, there wouldn't be a movie. This movie has a bad guy. You don't need terrible communication to make a plot happen. Oh, and the other horrible sin that this movie has is it doesn't have an ending. I mean, it has kind of an open ending, but also kind of not, and it's like really wants to set up a second movie, but it's obviously not going to get it, so here, look, this kind of looks cool, right? Be okay with this, please. Everything about this movie is so bad. This is recorded later, so you kind of get the anger that builds up through the rest of this video, but yeah, this movie, it's bad. It's So yeah, back to what I was saying. I mean, obviously not every movie should have the goal of... Not every story should be, hey, let's make the world a better place, but... If you make a dystopia, that is... Either you want to depress your audience, or you want to make it hopeful and show that, hey, no, look, things can become better. That's kind of the 2 things you want to do with a dystopia. Either, look, everything can go to shit, or, look, humans can always make things better. Or, I say humans, humanity, consciousness, I don't care. Things can become better, that's the other story you want to do with dystopias. But it does neither, which is just, why are you so dumb? And I'm not going into a crazy amount of spoilers here, because honestly I don't care. I mean, it's not like I don't recommend you see this movie, so in that regard, spoilers aren't all that interesting. But, well, basically, it's the biggest example of how it feels like an adaptation, like something that just takes from the source material without consideration of how much time needs to be between stuff, and just, you can't copy everything into a movie. If you make a movie, for instance, of Fallout 4, you don't add every time you help a settlement, or something like that. You don't include every time the player is slowly building a settlement and then gets message of something farm is under attack. In that same vein, you don't include the player joining the Brotherhood if the player doesn't do anything with the Brotherhood. If the Brotherhood is just an enemy, you don't first have the player join them and then, without second thought, betray them because the player didn't care about them. That's what this movie does. It introduces stuff that is of no consequence. Don't do that, ever. It's terrible. Everything. But that is kind of what it feels like here, or... there's so much wrong with it. It feels bad. It feels like they didn't think about it as a movie, only as an adaptation. Just how do we put as much of the manga into kind of the screenplay, because not really into the movie, because nobody thought about the movie. This is how do we put as much of it into text to make it a good summary? Well, not even a good summary. How do we put as much of it into text, and let's not think about what this text is going to become. So yeah, let's talk about that amazingly bad thing. One of the big points they make is, hey, her heart is incredibly valuable, and then they don't do anything with it. It doesn't go anywhere. At one point she offers someone her heart to basically get a lot of money that he needs to move up, but then what? He refuses because he's kind of a nice guy, and that's it. That's the end of that storyline. And then there is a dude who, well, at one point he gets fatally injured and people want him dead, and so his head gets cut off and hooked up to the android's life system, but just the machine still counts him as dead, so hey, his bounty is now gone, he gets an android body now. And then, I mean, that's third act material, that happens in the third act, or is the beginning of the third act, or whatever. Pretty sure that is third act. And then, in the same third act, he also gets killed, so you avoided him getting killed just so he would get killed. It wasn't even that I couldn't see it coming, it was more, this is terrible. Why waste time on saving his life? Just why waste movie time? Why waste screen time on saving his life if you're going to kill him anyway? It doesn't add anything. Nothing was added by... I mean, the only thing that was added was a cool moment. That's it. And also, let's just complain at the part that is probably the best about the movie. Because, you know, every movie should have problems even with its best parts. The combat is pretty cool, you know, when you can see it. Because obviously you can't. Because, well, it's all mostly the same colors. It's all kind of grey and brown and drabby colors. Of course, a fight between two humans in drabby colors is pretty easy to follow, right? Because we are humans. We have been trained to detect other humans, to see other humans. Of course, this is a movie with cyborgs, so there are cyborgs in it, and cyborgs aren't completely limited to just basic human anatomy. You know, except for all the good people, because all the good people need to be standard humans, right? Just all the good people need to look just like humans, just parts are instead robot, and all the bad people, they all have strangeness in their body. Because, you know, the good guys, they need to look just normal human, because, well, you don't want your audience to have to think about if they are a human, right? Oh, I am part machine, can you love me because of that? Well, what about you is not human? Yes, you don't have flesh, but there is nothing that makes you look all that not human, really. But the bad guys, now they can look strange, they can have extra arms or be way too bulky or have extra stuff to them or weird stuff. So, okay, at least the bad guys can look interesting. Of course, then the problem becomes, our brains are no longer trained to really keep tabs on where everything of your body is. It's fast combat with shapes that you can't track. Basically, this combat needs to, if you want people to know what's going on in the combat, and I don't think if that was their goal, but if you want to have people know what's going on in the combat, you need to basically make it very clear. You need to make very clear how they move, and you want to give people a fair number of just wide shots so they can see how things move. Basically that thing that I adored in How to Train Your Dragon, that they show you, hey look, this is how stuff moves, this is how stuff works. Here it's the opposite of that. They won't show you how things move, how things work. Just, I can't recommend this movie. Just, I really can't. The aesthetics of it, they are done. You have seen them all many times. The story is bad. The setting not well used. The visuals, sometimes interesting when you can see them, but you very often can't. And of course rampant dismemberment, which a lot of people probably won't be into. And the main character going from innocence to murderer in no time flat. Yeah, I can't recommend this movie, it's not good. So yeah, that's my first negative review. Don't see Alita Battle Angel because it's simply not good. And now for me to figure out the strangest part. What does Aelita have to do with Angel? Is Aelita just Angel in another language? I'll have to look it up. Maybe you'll see it in the description. This has been Phoenix, saying farewell.